This was the week where a lieutenant colonel in the Space Force, which already I have a lot of questions about what that even entails. But a lieutenant colonel in the Space Force was temporarily removed from his post after going on a conservative podcast and claiming that Marxism is invading the U.S. military. The man in question is Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeier, who in fact has an entire book about the Marxist infiltration, as he calls it, of the military. And the book is called Irresistible Revolution. Marxism's goal of conquest and the unmaking of the American military. To be fair, like, class war is pretty hot. So it is fairly irresistible. It's just like, I don't know. What's more irresistible? It's like a cocktail book on top of a vibrator on top of chili cheese fries. Like, that's the level
of irresistibility.
Yeah. Notice how I said book, not an actual cocktail.
Is this your form of harm reduction?
I'm just looking. I'm not drinking.
Sure.
Okay, so he said, let me just give you a little more context. He said the question is, has there been like the Communist Manifesto? Is that being passed around like on bases? Apparently no. Lohmeier told the podcast host that, quote, the diversity, inclusion, and equity industry and the trainings we are receiving in the military that are rooted in critical race theory are rooted in Marxism. For translation, for you guys who don't understand what I just said, he's mad black women fly planes.
It's like the if you don't know, there is a diversity, equity, inclusion thing of like consultants who like I've had some brushes with it, and it's like consultants who get hired by companies to go and give like a corporate TED talk of like, you shouldn't touch black women's hair. And then people like, and then like the white liberals like write that down on a notepad. And then they're like, but what if I want to? And they're like, no, don't do that. And then they're like, okay. But then can I ask trans people, like what kind of, like if they have a dick or not? Like, no, the other people's genitals are not your business. That's the diversity, equity, inclusion industry is like, that's
but they do it in like a sketch and they're like, that's wrong.
That's right.
I don't know. I'm trying to like what rhymes with genitalia? I can't. I'm doing bad rap. But it's like a school assembly, but for people in the military.
Right. It's like Schoolhouse Rocks of not being like needlessly offensive to your coworkers. They're very focused on microaggressions and stuff like that. And so, which is fine as far as it goes. But you know what? Not rooted in Marxism. Like that's quite a leap to get there. But I was just marveled at the sentence. Lieutenant Colonel dismissed from Space Force for going on a podcast and saying that Marxism was infiltrating the military. That is the conservative version of me getting fired by my organic produce CSA for saying on the Bitchuation room that Antifa is being infiltrated by Pantsuit Nation, which is to say, both of those are things that would be impossible to explain to Karl Marx himself. Like when Marx wrote that such a state of things will maintain itself and reproduce itself upon a constantly increasing scale until a new and fundamental revolution in the mode of production should again overturn it and restore the original union in a new historical form, in explaining dialectical materialism, he never would have gotten to Space Force officer fired on a podcast.
Give him some time. He might maybe like all the aliens are communists and like, but got it right. I do want to just read. Okay, here I want to read from the book jacket and then I'll give my final a bit that I wrote. But this is from the book jacket, you guys. So this is him. This is Lieutenant Colonel, whatever the F his name is. After becoming aware of the Marxist conquest of American society, you will never again look at things in the same way. Mainstream media, social media, the public education system, including universities, as well as federal agencies, have all become vessels of various schools of thought that are rooted in Marxist ideology. An ideology, is my favorite part, bent on the destruction of American history, of Western tradition, specifically Judeo-Christian values, everybody drink, and of patriotism and conservatism. There we go. How more Nazi do you want to get? Judeo-Christian values, our heritage, our tradition. By the way, critical race theory is not rooted in Marxism. Critical race theory is just looking at race critically. But of course, if you're on the right, even learning about race and racism is racist, especially critically. The right hates critical race theory. They prefer trivial race theory, like one time a black guy was mean to me, or inconsequential race theory, like Indian food gives me gas. See? Like that's their speed of theory.
Any analysis that involves more sophistication than something that you can easily fit on Nextdoor or say shout from a passing truck at an immigrant is too complicated for them.
Oh God, I wish him well. If it makes you guys want to feel any worse, this is trending #1 on Amazon books in communism and Marxism. Take with that what you will. I feel like it was a self-published job. He's only been temporarily suspended. He's going to have his job back, you guys. Don't you worry, for all you little squealers on the internet. Hey, thanks so much for watching the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. And while you're here, why don't you just subscribe to this channel? I promise it'll be good. Promise.